So on in the first study session that I recently uploaded in my YouTube video, uh, I showed what like my like studying thing. I don't even know what that was like. It was just a video of me studying. So in this video, I'm hoping that I can show you what exactly did I study in that video. So yeah, let's begin. So the book that I was studying, the subject that I was studying was anatomy, and the book that I was studying was B.D. Chaurase's Human Anatomy, Volume One. In this volume, in this volume deals with upper limb and thorax. So uh, this whole book deals with upper limb and thorax. So basically, this section of your body, your hands and your chest. So this whole book is dedicated towards the anatomy of these two regions. So since it's a whole book and the whole book is dedicated to only two regions, it has a lot of details in it, which is, if you're studying anatomy, it's a really good thing. Anatomy is all about the details, so this book is really good. It has a lot of details. So yeah, so let's see before we go forward, let's see the table of contents. So yeah, so in that session I studied in the other video, the study session number one. So in the first session I studied the pectoral region and the axilla. So I studied pectoral region and axilla up to the brachius plexus. So I studied this much, like this encircled area. So I started at the pectoral region, went reached axilla and studied up till the brachius plexus. The I didn't study the brachius plexus because it's like, first of all, I ran out of time and I was tired, and second of all, brachius plexus is a really complicated topic in its own. So I didn't want to study this one when I was tired. So basically, I studied pectoral region and axilla midway through axilla. So, uh, so chapter number 3 and 4, I had already studied chapter number 1 and 2. The first chapter was introduction. Introduction is like, this chapter is pretty easy since it's called introduction. But then the second chapter, the bones of upper limb, this one. So this chapter is like was like a little bit more challenging than others because it contained a lot of detail. This chapter basically was an overview of every bone in the upper limb, what are the muscles attached to it, what are the parts of the bones, and lots of, like, each bone has a lot of parts and lot of muscles attached to it. So this was like an overview of everything that will be the terms, the bones that will be used in the following sections in other chapters. So this was a big chapter, and a chapter of lot of detail, and it took me a long time to go through chapter number 2. But though it was long and difficult, I highly recommend everyone to study chapter number 2 before studying chapter number 3, 4, and so on, because it contains a lot of detail, and it would be really useful. So yeah, so in pectoral region, so this, let's go to the pectoral. I'm using a mouse, so it's not that good. So yeah, let's go to the pectoral region. So yeah, in the pectoral region, we basically talk about the chest region. So since we are talking about the chest, especially in females, we need to study about the breast as well. So pectoral region is all about chest, and like the breast are in the chest region. So we need to study about the anatomy of the breast. So as you can see, the breast we can anatomically divide into different quadrants. So upper lateral, upper medium, lower medial, lower lateral. Like the breast is divided into four sections: 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's how, like, the anatomists divide the section so that it would be easier to, you know, locate stuff while surgery and stuff. And these are the muscles below the breast. So breast is basically a collection of fats. So this is fat. The yellow part is fat, and these all are the muscles underneath the breast. So yeah, furthermore we dive into the anatomy of the breast. We can see that the breast is made up of lots of uh, like the mammary gland is made up of lots of lobes. So this balloon shaped thing here, so each balloon shaped thing is a single lobe with a lot of acnes. So the small things are acnes. So lobes, inside lobes there are acnes, and these are the glands that produce milk. So this one is like a separate, zoomed in, further zoomed in version of the milk gland. So this is a single lobe. So we talk about the milk glands and stuff, and now something really important. We also talk about the lymphatics of the breast. So the lymphatics of the breast is really important because these lymphatics are involved, like breast cancer is one of the most like common cancers in females. These lymphatics, like these lymph nodes are really like these are like involved in breast cancer as well. So thorough knowledge of these lymph nodes helps us understand breast cancer and stuff like that. So yeah, so these are the lymph node. This is one group, and these are the axillary lymph node, and these are the other lymph nodes. So like lots of lymph node. You need to remember where these lymph nodes are. So we need to study about lymph nodes. And then here is the clinical anatomy section. So the clinical anatomy section is like really important because you know clean this section, this section in pink is like clinical anatomy boxes talk about the clinical aspect of the theory that we have just studied. So everything that we studied previously, this orange pinkish box, uh, whatever it whatever that is written in this pinkish box discusses the practical aspect of it. So it talks about where the incisions of the breast are usually made, you know, where the incisions are made, like how the surgery is done. Talks about cancer in breast, and it also talks about how a woman can inspect her own breast to check for breast cancer. Like it talks about like a retraction of nipple is also a sign of cancer. Discharge from nipple, if you can feel lump in the breast, these are the signs of the of breast cancer and stuff like that. And the possible surgery and treatment of these cancer. And this like retraction of skin is one of the symptoms of breast cancer. This basically means that the skin in your breast, like it constricts. So if you find that, then that's one of the symptoms. And pure orange appearance, so this is basically a fancy way of saying like the breast is kind of swollen and there are like dots in the breast, so in the breast skin. So this is also a sign of breast cancer. And then what else do we have? So after breast we go to the pectoral muscles. So there are lots of pectoral muscles like clavicular fibers, mandibular fibers. So pectoral muscles, there are lots of pectoral muscles. Pectoralis major, pectoralis minor, serratus anterior. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the names right, but then pectoralis major, like the pectoralis major muscle is one of the most important muscles of the pectoral region, and it's made up of these four muscles: clavicular fiber, mandibular fiber. So as you can see, these muscles, like for example this one is the clavicular fiber, and you can see like the clavicular fiber originates at the clavicle and ends at the humerus. So whenever you are talking about muscles, it's really important to know where the muscle originates and where the muscle ends. So this one in particular originates at clavicle, ends at humerus. So we have to learn about these muscles. And this, now we are talking about the serratus anterior muscle. So this is also another important muscle in your body, and as you can see, this muscle starts at the shaft of the ribs. So It originates at the rib and it terminates at the scapula. So the serratus anterior muscle originates at the ribs and it goes backwards toward your body laterally, and it terminates at your shoulder bone or the scapula. The shoulder bone is called the scapula, so it terminates at the scapula. And here you can see like we need to know like the borders, like what are the borders. So this is the rib, this is the vertebrate, and as you can see like this one, draw this in pink. So the red one, so this one, this muscle. So this muscle in particular, this, as I was telling you, that is the serratus anterior muscle. It originates at the it originates at the it originates at the it originates at it originates at the this thing. Fuck is going on? So it originates at the ribs and it ends at the, it goes laterally and backwards towards the scapula. So here is your scapula basically. So it originates here and goes backwards. So now we go towards the axilla. So now we go towards the axilla. So axilla is basically the anatomical term for the armpit. So it's written armpit. So we studied the anatomy of the armpit. So the axilla can be, the armpit region can be like, it can be imagined as a pyramid. So the armpit can be imagined as a 3D pyramid. I know. Okay. So this is the base, and as you go towards your shoulder joint from your armpit, here is your shoulder joint. So this is your armpit region, and it is like pyramidal in shape. So this figure is basically, wait, what happened? All right. So yeah, so this figure is basically talking about like the different sides of the pyramid. So the anterior or the front side is anterior wall, the back side is posterior wall, and this lateral side, this lateral side is the lateral wall, and the other side is the medial wall. So yeah, and this one shows the imaginary pyramid of the armpit. And now we talk about and now we talk about the muscles that are included in the armpit region. So these are the muscles: subscapular muscle, teres major, latissimus dorsi, and the veins and the nerves in the armpit region. And this one is an important diagram. This talks about the different walls and what are like, we learned about the different walls of the armpit region previously, right? So posterior wall, medial wall, anterior wall, lateral wall, everything. So this diagram talks about what are the structures present in the walls, like near the wall. So on the medial wall, so on the anterior wall, so on the anterior wall, so these are the structures present. On the lateral wall, this side is lateral, so on the lateral wall these are the structures present. On the medial wall, this is the medial wall, like these muscles and nerves are present. And on the posterior wall, these are the subscapularis muscle is present. So yeah, so different walls and what muscles are close to those walls. And moving on, now we talk about the axillary artery. So axillary artery is basically the artery that goes through your armpit. So the axillary artery has like different, like as you can see, different part: first part, second part, third part, demarcated by this pectoralis major muscle, minor muscle, sorry. and these are the different structures that are above the artery. So these structures are above the artery and these structures are below the artery. And finally, we come to an important diagram. So the axillary artery, as you can see, goes as you can see goes through the axilla. So this is your armpit, right? So this is your armpit, so this artery goes through your armpit, so that's why it's called axillary. Axillary is basically your armpit, so it's called that is why it's called axillary artery. And as you can see, this artery has many branches. So like this is one branch, and these are some other branches. This is also another branch, and towards the lower part it gives this branch. So this artery has lots of branches, and we need to study where these branches go, which part of the body do they supply, and stuff like that. So yeah, so we covered the branches of axillary artery and their course in their body. So yeah, we basically talked I so we basically talked about breast anatomy of the breast, the mammary gland, lymphatics of the breast cancer, and then muscles of the pectoral region, serratus anterior muscle, the armpit or the axilla, and then the anatomy of the armpit, muscles in the armpit, different muscles, and the uh, axillary artery, and different branches of the axillary artery. So that was the thing that I studied in my around 2 hours of studying in study session episode 1. So that's it. Thank you for listening.